So I think that's just kind of been the time for me to like really find some patience, and I've never been a patient person my entire life, so this has definitely tested me a little bit.
Every game, so the saying goes, tells a tale. The game against the Los Angeles Sparks turned out to be one that neither the Indiana Fever nor their supporters anticipated. The Fever had all the momentum going into the game and were prepared to add yet another victory to their expanding record. However, the discourse around Indiana had entirely shifted by the last buzzer. With a surprising 106-92 win, the Sparks put on one of their best performances of the season, reminding everyone in the WNBA that no game is guaranteed. Now, when I say this game altered everything, I am not simply referring to one standings outcome. This defeat revealed flaws that the Fever had been able to conceal throughout their previous winning run. The Sparks matched Indiana's vigor, played confidently from the beginning to the end, and seized charge when it counted most. And then there is the wider picture. Suddenly, a game that many thought the Fever would win handily has become one of the week's greatest shocks. It was not only about the Sparks pulling off an upset. It was about Los Angeles demonstrating they could compete with one of the most popular teams in the league and making the Fever face some challenging issues going ahead. The Sparks controlled the pace and prevented Indiana from fully settling into their game with explosive scoring runs and pivotal defensive stops. With the Fever attempting to maintain their momentum, the Sparks trying to make a statement, and both teams fighting through every possession, the scene was set for a memorable evening. Let us examine how the Sparks stunned the Fever, the major turning moments, and the implications of this outcome for both teams going forward. By the time it was finished, the outcome had everybody in the WNBA talking, and the responses were just beginning. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video.
Obviously, this game is peaking at 3.2 million viewers is crazy for the WNBA, even for the Fever. So this year's peaks are already freaking higher than last year's peaks when this team was starting to do a bit well.
Caitlin was doing what she does best, breaking records and dropping highlights, before she exited with a strained quad.
Again, much better start from a number of Sparks tonight than we saw on Monday. It had been a long layoff. They hadn't played in 9 days.
The Indiana Fever had a lot of momentum and rising expectations going into their game against the Los Angeles Sparks. With Caitlin Clark at the forefront, fans thought Indiana was prepared to extend its remarkable run. However, basketball has the ability to quickly alter the narrative. Rather than putting on another outstanding effort, the Fever were forced to fight a Spark squad that would not give up. What is the craziest part? From the second half on, Los Angeles seemed to be the more determined squad, seizing the initiative and winning 106-92. All of the excitement around Indiana abruptly gave way to concerns about what went wrong and how the Sparks were able to change the course of events so convincingly.
Mitchell, the crossover, the spin, the step through, and a tough two from...
The Fever thought they had finally found their groove going into this game. Many thought Indiana would easily defeat the Los Angeles Sparks because of their recent victories. But as soon as the game started, it was obvious that this would not be another easy evening. The Sparks seized every chance, the offense never seemed as fluid as supporters had anticipated, and defensive mistakes began to mount. Indiana saw glimpses of the squad that has thrilled supporters throughout the season, but the Fever failed to sustain that momentum for too long, even when they put together a few excellent periods. Los Angeles never allowed the Fever to settle in, despite Caitlin Clark's continual huge plays, open looks for her teammates, and challenging shots. The Sparks responded with another timely basket or an important defensive stop each time Indiana seemed poised for a significant comeback. The game's result ultimately depended on those momentum-shifting moments, which we will revisit in a moment. As the second half progressed, the strain only grew. Fever supporters thought their club would soon go on the run that everyone had been waiting for, but the Sparks continued to improve. After an unexpected 106-92 loss, Indiana was left looking for solutions while Los Angeles maintained composure, performed well in crucial situations, and converted that confidence into one of their most spectacular wins of the season.
I think this was a kind of gut punch for us. We're going to come back tomorrow practice, more focus, more energy. We know we want to be at the end of the season, but we're not just going to get there. You know, sometimes it sucks and it's a grind, and that's where we're at right now. But I do think short term and long term, it's going to make us better.
This was Sophie Cunningham after the team's first game without Caitlin Clark, a defeat to the Mystics. In retrospect, she was right, thus it is crucial to keep in mind what she stated. However, if supporters were looking for a speedy recovery, they were let down. Following the Mystics' defeat, things became worse.
That it can provide. Grace Van Slooten has checked in for the Fever. Cunningham read that all the way. Good play there by Sophie.
Fans and commentators questioned everything after their humiliating defeat to the Sun, a team who began the season 0-5. And it became even worse just when you thought it could not get much worse. The Fever suffered injuries to Sydney Coulson and Sophie Cunningham during the same game. Caitlin Clark lost both of her backups in an instant. The depth chart was suddenly shredded, not simply thin. However, here is when the narrative changes. Because sometimes a door may swing wide open when two doors crash shut. And this one inhaled a huge amount of clean, breezy.
Harris, Renee, Teaspoon, hold it
That
down.
Shot, yeah, all of it. Ton of love.
We were proud mamas.
McDonald, airy. Nobody anticipated the hardship signing, who intervened and immediately altered the atmosphere. The energy came from her. She set the pace. Above all, she started the offense. She became a fan favorite and a spark plug. Many individuals are now arguing that she should not just be a stopgap measure. She ought to contribute to the future of this squad.
And if there's one thing that is a certainty for the Indiana Fever, it's that hold on to Aerie McDonald at all costs.
The Fever began to make their way. First, they reversed the course of that previous defeat by exacting retribution on the Mystics. Then the big one arrived. The much-awaited rematch with the Los Angeles Sparks in front of around 20,000 spectators. The Fever also made a declaration. Not only did they triumph, but they completely destroyed them.
And the Indiana Fever has beaten the Chicago Sky by a combined 62 points in 2 games.
It is true that beating the Sky is like breathing at this point, but this particular game was unique since the Fever succeeded without Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and their head coach, Stephanie White. It was an incredible dubbing, despite the fact that it was not their cleanest game. The Fever just proven to be hazardous, which is what should frighten the rest of the WNBA. They have figured out way to succeed without Caitlin.
Happy learned how to putt. Uh-oh.
Kelsey Mitchell is beginning to resemble her former self after emerging from her early season slump. Aaliyah Boston is still a powerful force. Lexi Hull makes a strong argument for being the most improved player, possibly even on the verge of all-star status, because she is just deadly from 3. There are many things to like. And just for these reasons, when Caitlin returns, the Fever will be better. They were better than they would have been if she had never been late. Fever fans ought to be ecstatic just from this. However, there is more if you are a fan of Caitlin Clark. This injury provided the club with more than just an opportunity to improve. It made her worth difficult to overlook. There has never been a greater indication of her significance to the league. This is where we should begin.
The cheapest ticket for the June 7th showdown is $14, according to Vivid Seats. Oh, there's some even less expensive than that.
First, the Los Angeles Sparks game marked the formal conclusion of the story. They are there to watch me too. Tickets were selling for as cheap as $3 just before tip-off. Getting a little popcorn to see the Los Angeles Sparks lose was practically more costly than entering the stadium. Here's the worst part. A few weeks later, they rematched. The demand for tickets is already rising once again.
The cheapest ticket for that game next month is currently at $82, according to Vivid Seats. It gets much worse. Therefore, there's currently an 83% drop between the 2 games.
I will not go into too much detail about how Alyssa Thomas only scored 4 more points than you, me, and my blender put together. Next query. But let us face it, the show put an end to the competition in front of the largest audience and in the most prominent limelight. No one is buying the media spin anymore after the league saw one of its most widely advertised young stars put on one of the most disastrous displays of the season.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, the most coddled basketball player in history. She is the 43rd best player in the WNBA. She is, and that is being the most generous I can be coming into this season.
But fam, don't you dare exclude Angel Reese out of that. That is favoritism. Don't show that, man. You need to call Angel Reese out the same way you are willing to call everybody else out.
One thing has become abundantly evident from all of this. It is not Alyssa Thomas who is pushing the needle. Caitlin Clark is in her element. The discussion comes to an end when Caitlin arrives and the ratings soar once again. It has ended. And maybe, just perhaps, the WNBA will come to the realization that it is time to safeguard and promote its brightest talent. Speaking about her comeback and those unprecedented. This is what she said.
Is this an injury that happened during a game or anything, or is it just something that was lingering that popped up? Or?
It happened in the Liberty game, yeah.
Were you able to pinpoint the time in the Liberty game that happened, or you just?
No, definitely early in the game, but I couldn't tell you the exact play something occurred on. And
Caitlin said that she does not recall the precise time of the injury. However, not everyone agrees with that. There is increasing conjecture that she has been silently dealing with this issue for weeks, rather than it being a sudden fluke accident. Anything that has been developing. She made an effort to persevere till she was unable to.
Happened in the Liberty game, yeah, I don't believe that. She looked 60% in the Liberty game. She looked no better against the Atlanta Dream. And there's no way it happened in the Liberty game. Unless, like, she looked so much better in the second half of the Liberty game as well. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
First of all, there is a positive statement about Caitlin in that idea. And in a moment, I will address it. To be honest, however, I would not be shocked if some liability management was taking on in the background. Because a whole different discussion would arise if the team was aware of the ailment and she continued to play despite it, rather than it being a random in-game injury.
If things just go as they were, and we have expanded season of 22 home games with modest inflation, I'm looking at $875 million.
Consider it. This season, Caitlin Clark is actually worth $1 billion to the league. It is not simply a negative look if the Fever let her to play game after game while knowing she was playing with an ailment. That could be a PR disaster. I am not a lawyer, but it makes sense when you take into account Caitlin's fierce competitiveness, the fact that she has not exactly looked 100% during the season, and the amount of attention her success is receiving.
She hasn't looked really right all year. Like, the Sky game was the Sky game. They destroyed the Sky. The Sky were terrible. But outside the Sky game, she hasn't looked right at all. She didn't look right in preseason. She hasn't looked right at all this year.
It is not a crazy conspiracy. It is simple damage control. And you can see why they would keep things ambiguous if that is indeed what is going on. Here's the good news now. To be honest, I sort of hope the hypothesis is accurate because of this. We may be about to see the greatest version of Caitlin yet if she has been quietly playing with an injury throughout these first few games and has now finally taken a step back to recuperate. Consider it. She was not feeling her best. She continued to put up strong statistics. Imagine what will happen if she is completely well. Here's another hint that lends credence to the hypothesis. Additional indication that she could have been pretending to be in agony the whole time.
I think at times the hardest part is like just not being able to be involved in practice. Like, I love practice. Not a ton of people always enjoy like coming to practice every single day, but that's something I like really enjoy. Like, I really enjoy coming out here and like competing every single day with my teammates. Like, that's probably honestly what I miss most. Obviously, I miss the games. That goes for anybody that's ever hurt, but like, I love practice. I love getting better.
You cannot teach that right there. That fire belongs to Caitlin. She loves the grind, the repetitions, the movie, the additional effort, the ongoing development, learning, and encouraging her colleagues. Indeed, being on the sidelines is killing her. Despite being out, she continues to find ways to lead, develop, contribute, and advance this team. Additionally, she showed us at the press conference how she continues to have an influence on the game even from the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a unique perspective, you know, when you're out there playing and actually in the heat of the moment, you don't always realize everything, you don't always see everything, you see things from a different perspective that maybe the coaching staff didn't see. So it's certainly different. So I'm trying to, you know, kind of be that connector between the coaches and then my teammates at the same time, whether, you know, that's in the locker room at halftime, whether that's during timeouts, of, you know, things I see from the bench that maybe might be a little bit different of a perspective than maybe our point guard is seeing or, you know, anybody on the floor is seeing.
She has always studied the game. That is not novel. To be honest, however, this time on the sidelines may be providing her with a coach's viewpoint that she has never had before. And that is evident. She is becoming an even more capable leader as a result. She is not only idly sitting there. She does not have it in her DNA. She is focused, dissecting plays like a coach, speaking up, motivating teammates, and picking up new skills in real time. And finally, the question that everyone had been anticipating. The one that looms over every broadcast, every headline, and every Fever fan. When will Caitlin Clark return? Here's the wonderful news.
After that, it's, you know, day by day and see how I feel and just kind of turn to the medical staff and what they think. But I feel like I've made a lot of progress and I feel good and, you know, not going to rush coming back. It's just not worth it.
This is precisely what you want to hear if you are a fan of Caitlin Clark or Fever. She is in a great mood and, more importantly, she is not hurrying since this is more than one game. It has to do with the season and perhaps more. If anything, she may have played through the agony, which is why she ended herself in this predicament. She is just that. A fierce rival. She could have already made a comeback against the Dream by the time this video goes online. In my opinion, it is not probable. Without her, the Fever are winning. She will get an additional week of rest if she sits out since the season is still young. Hey, I am not her physician. If I am mistaken, please let me know in the comments. One thing is certain, however, regardless of when you are viewing this. Game of the season when Caitlin Clark returns. Even before she sat out, she was shattering viewing records. Since this small hiatus produced something potent, I honestly do not believe we have seen anything yet. Music. In contrast, it is clearly evident how the league is different with and without Caitlin. Without her, the Fever had to discover who they were and how to prevail. And you want that type of hardship, particularly early in the season. With a more unified and self-assured team around her, Caitlin is now at full strength and ready to do what everyone had anticipated from the beginning. Make this squad a serious contender for the title. It is incredible what can happen with a little patience and time away. Please share your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe, and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the next one after you click the video on the screen.